The 2019 NBA draft produced much talent. In fact, I can't even imagine the NBA without some of these players we've had the pleasure of watching over the last 3 seasons. Can you?
No, not at all. Not at all. And welcome to the league.
For
The league
real.
needed you for sure.
Yeah, we received a note from one of our loyal viewers, Tish. Tish, what's up? I feel like I know you, but she asked, is RJ Barrett on the same level as his peers? I mean, before we get into that, like, can you define level? Like, what does that mean to you?
When we're talking about is somebody on somebody's level, it's almost like can they compare, compete, and contend with this person that we deem is at the top of is at the top, right? And so I think on this 2019 draft class, there are some players that I think arguably will be at the top,
Hmm.
you know, and then there's some that are role players, which is not bad because if you're in the league, you winning. Number one, right? Now, whether or not that winning contract is max or is little, you still making money, right? And you still able to play in the league and do something that you like to do. So I think that's fine. But I think level defines a player who franchise is building around them. Have they received max contract extensions? Have they changed the way the franchise or the league or the fans look at the game? These are the things I'm thinking
Hmm.
about level, right? Because otherwise, shoot, I'm on the level and I'm at home, you know. So, so there got to be something that's differentiating between, you know, what level. In this context of 2019 draft class, we're talking about the highest level that these draft picks have achieved so far, and I'm thinking that's where my baseline is. What about yours?
Ooh, okay. Now, so in order for a player to be on the same level, and this is what I think, I'm like, okay, is their career moving at the same pace under the same circumstances, and the circumstances being opportunity, environment, and coaching? If it's all the same, then it's easy for me to say, okay, this person yes, this person no. So that's how I had to define it in my mind, especially for RJ Barrett, right? He's the topic of discussion.
I think that there's two things though. I agree with you on that. And that's really a great way that you've kind of identified it. But then it also takes the player because even if the environment, even if the coaching, even if the opportunity is the same, if that player doesn't have it won't matter. And not all players in the 2019 draft class, although are good players, don't have it. That can be the difference between whether or not they are on that level or not. So,
Hmm.
you know, considering all things constant. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the 2019 NBA draft class. And, hopefully we can identify some of his peers and say,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's take a look, compare and contrast. Now, there are some players on this list who have made a name for themselves. I mean, I'm looking at the top pick in the draft, Zion Williamson. But, the thing with Zion is he kind of had that pregame, that pre draft where we were waiting for him. Some of these players didn't have that opportunity to just shine without showing us anything. I mean,
That's
think
true.
about Zion's final year at Duke, blew his shoe out. Didn't it? You know what I'm saying? Like we were waiting, biting our nails, waiting for Zion to get to the NBA.
Yeah, but the difference between Zion and maybe previous first round first pick of the draft in previous classes is that we were anticipating them as well. But Zion was able to come in and show us. See, everybody, although we may be in and we may have anticipated them coming into the league, because usually anticipate the first round, the first pick of the draft, right? But Zion
Mm.
showed not only had the ability to showcase who he was in college, but when he came to the league, it was also equally explosive. We were still excited. What's so interesting about Zion is that even though he has not completed the season, we are still anticipating.
Yes.
Everybody, you cannot tell me not one person that watches basketball religiously is not anticipating on what Zion Williamson can do next season.
Hmm.
Who's not? We are still hoping to see whatever he's bringing because when he does show on the court, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah. Another player who has the it factor. Oh my goodness, Ja Morant, number 2 pick in that draft. For me, it really could have gone either way. Ja Morant could have been a top pick in the draft, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. And I think it, when you talk about opportunity and I think another thing that's important is to where you're drafted and what's happening on the roster that you're drafted on. If you think about Zion Williamson and John Morant, when Zion Williamson was drafted in 2019, the Pelicans traded Anthony Davis out. So Zion Williamson was able to come in to a franchise where he was going to be the focal point anyway.
Yes.
Likewise for Ja Morant. When Ja Morant was drafted in 2019, they had just shipped out Mike Conley, or was in the process of getting rid of Mike Conley. Mike Conley was an icon in Memphis on the Grizzlies for what, 12 seasons?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Marcus Gasol was on that roster and all of that, but Mike Conley was a focal point. He had been there forever. And so they shipped him out to the Jazz, and then now in come Ja Morant. They intended to build the franchise around him, right? And he has a personality that was able to make it happen. So
yes,
it's about the team and the opportunity. And if that player comes with the skill and then these are the results we have from the first two draft picks of the 2019 draft class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see RJ Barrett at number 3, but I don't want to get into him quite yet. Is there another player within this draft class that just really stands out for you, made a name for himself, and basically runs that franchise?
Oh, runs the franchise. See, okay. Made a
Mm-hmm.
name and runs the franchise, two different things. Made a name, of course, Jordan Poole. Come on. What? He's not on this list because, again, I don't have that much space. But he was the number 29th draft pick?
Yeah, 28.
28 draft pick. I mean, what? He's a 2022 NBA champion, and he contributed to the championship win for the Golden State Warriors. So yes, he's made a name for himself. The fans coin Poole party. He is the 4th member of the Splash Brothers. Like, what else can you do when you are drafted to a team that is willing to utilize you, and you as a player have what it takes to, include yourself in that process? So yeah, Jordan Poole is one who made a name. Another person that's made a name is that Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero over there with the Heat, right? So Tyler Hero, what is he, number 13? 6th man of the year 2022. And if in my account, if he wasn't dropping buckets in 2022 because Duncan Robinson was disappearing, like
Yep.
where would the Heat be anyway, right? So, and they were number 1 in the Eastern Conference for the 2022 season. So yeah, Tyler Hero contributed greatly to that. So yeah, two people for me to stand out that made a name.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, but I can't overlook Darius Garland with the Cleveland Cavaliers. In fact, he came in, messed around, and I'm not going to say he shipped Colin Sexton out, but Colin Sexton's no longer on the Cavs. The Cavs believed in Darius Garland from the jump. So that's a guy who I wouldn't say he's the face of the franchise or that he runs it, but he's got some leverage there.
He has huge leverage, and that's why I didn't mention him first, because I think he fits both pieces. He's made a name for himself, and he's running the franchise. Now, will he maintain that? I don't know, because the Cavs were they give him a max extension. There's only 3 players on the 2019 draft class that we have received a max rookie extension: Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, and Darius Garland. Max. There's other players that have received extensions, with Keldon Johnson and RJ Barrett, but not the max. Not the max. And so, again, another opportunity. Think about it. Play ability and opportunity when it meets. The opportunity came. Darius Garland was drafted in 2019. Colin Sexton was the guy in Cleveland for 2019, 2020, 2021. Injured in 2022, where he only played 11 games, which opened up the opportunity for Darius Garland to showcase exactly who he was.
Yep.
And here we are, max contract later. So just saying, and he became that for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which helped lead them amongst other players. I'm not saying these players did it by themselves, because they did not. Don't take that. But we're talking about the 2019 draft class and what they've contributed to their franchise. That's huge for Darius Garland.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into RJ Barrett. Here's a guy who drafted by the New York Knicks, number 3 overall. And that's the thing, though. He was drafted to the Knicks, a franchise and a fan base that expects the world. The Knicks have not been very good. And in come RJ Barrett, and he's like, okay, well, how do I fit in here? He was drafted with Fizdale was the head coach, and then they brought in Tom Thibodeau. See, that's what I'm saying. The environment and the coaching and opportunity. RJ has had to play with Julius Randle, who commands the ball a lot. Julius won, what did he win? Most improved player when RJ Barrett was there. So you're talking about not having the same opportunity as some of his peers,
That's
like the
correct.
Ja Morants, like the Darius Garlands, you know, like the Jordan Pooles. So is it fair to say that RJ is on the same level as his peers?
You know what? I don't think when RJ Barrett was drafted to the Knicks in 2019, their intentions were for him not to be the focal point. It was Julius Randle because 2019 is when Julius Randle was traded from the Lakers to the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
So the Knicks' mindset was that Julius Randle will be the one to take us to the championship. RJ Barrett will be a role player in that process. But guess what? Julius Randle in 2022 disappeared.
Totally.
So RJ Barrett in 2023 has his opportunity. Just like Darius Garland had his opportunity, just like Ja Morant had his opportunity, just like Zion Williamson had his opportunity. They may have had theirs their year they were drafted, but now
Mm-hmm.
RJ Barrett's year is coming up. It is his time to now take over the franchise if he wanted to.
Jalen Brunson's in town now.
See, but that's the thing. Does RJ Barrett have that to be the one to lead the franchise?
Mm.
We'll see, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because I think the timing is now, unless Julius Randle reinvents himself and becomes that dude again, which I don't think the Knicks are going to even be on board with him. He's just, if they had somewhere to send him, he'll probably be gone. Right? So RJ Barrett is at his point of his career with the Knicks. It can happen to another team, but with the Knicks right now, I believe this is his time to be on that level with his peers when we're talking about. I put RJ Barrett right in the middle. He is in the middle between star of the 2019 draft class or a role player of the 2019 draft class. He's right there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the crossroads of will you transition over to this star where the team will now build around you, and Jalen Brunson will be a piece to help you be successful and not be the piece, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Julius Randle will get in when he fit in because now you've commanded, that you are now the face like Ja Morant. And funny enough for Zion, even though they do have Brandon Ingram, even though they do have CJ McCollum on the Pelicans, Zion is still the dude on the bench. Like when he
Yeah.
can't play, he still is in discussion talks, right? So will RJ Barrett become that person for the Knicks, which would now move him to the star status for the 2019 draft class? The opportunity is his.
Yeah, I would love to see it because when you think about some of the five dudes that we talked about, Ja Morant, won Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, Darius Garland is an All-Star,
Mm-hmm.
Zion Williamson is an All-Star, Tyler Hero, Sixth Man of the Year, Jordan Poole probably would have won runner-up, for Sixth Man of the Year had he not played so many starter minutes. But he's also 2022 champ. Of
Exactly.
those players, RJ Barrett is the only one without any accolades. I mean, it's a tough crowd.
I don't know if that's his fault. I think it is the environment, it is the franchise, and it is who he had to play with at the time. Randall was the dude. Let's just say what it is. When RJ Barrett came into the league, Julius Randle was the one for New York.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, they are moving away from that, I believe. And so now RJ Barrett, your time is now. It's just about timing
Hmm.
sometimes. It's about
Hmm.
timing, And so now I believe it's RJ Barrett's time.
So let's talk briefly about the second round of the 2019 NBA draft. I see THT, Terrence Mann, who played a big role for the LA Clippers when PG and Kawhi were both out. And then Nick Claxton. Remember Nick Claxton with the Nets? I mean, come on. If he had just a little bit more weight in his pocket, there's a good chance that he would have played. He would have taken the minutes away from LaMarcus Aldridge and those guys in the paint.
I agree. You know what? Let's go back to THT. There was a point one season, was it the 2021 season, where we were like, oh, the Lakers may have found their next, but not while LeBron and AD is on the roster. It's
See?
not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And then they brought in Russell Westbrook, so your touches are less now. So it does matter where you're drafted or where you end up and who's currently on the roster when you get there. It matters. And luckily for some of these role players that are on the 2019 draft class, Jackson Hayes, DeAndre Hunter, Kobe White, Rui
Mm,
Hashimura, Cam Reddish, Cam Johnson. I can go on and on. Solid players on their franchise. Solid players. But there's other players on there that are the focal point, and they become the role
mhm.
player. So when their opportunity presents itself to them, will they be able to? It may not be their first 4 years. It may not happen until year 6 for some of these players. You know, just so
Yeah.
happened that the 4 we mentioned, and I can't forget about Keldon Johnson. I mean, he was able to get a contract extension too for the Spurs, and is he now the face of the Spurs?
Yeah, he
You
is.
know why that happened? Because DeJounte Murray is no longer there. Again, when the opportunity presents itself, are you ready? That's what it boils
Uh-huh.
down to. And so sometimes I don't think it's really the players themselves. It's just where they're drafted to or where they end up, which will dictate how successful they can be in their franchise. It's just what happens. And not everybody can be the guy. So.
Right. How big of a role do you think the head coach plays? If we talk about Zion Williamson, he's had brand new coaches almost every season. I mean, dating back to Stan Van Gundy, you had Alvin Gentry. He's had,
You got Willie Green now. I mean,
yeah, he's got Willie Green now, who I think will probably have the most impact on Zion Williamson and give him the best opportunity to be successful. But if you think about RJ Barrett having to be coached by Tom Thibodeau, do you think that helped or stunted his growth?
I think it stunted his growth. Coaches matter. Coaches matter. I think they matter. Yeah. Yeah. Because if I think about Ja Morant, before he came over, I believe in 2019, the coach may have been JB Bickerstaff. I think that's how you say his name. I think it was
Hmm.
JB. And then the new coach, what's his name? Taylor
Yeah.
came in. I want to say Coach Taylor has been Ja Morant's coach since he's been drafted in 2019. I believe that's it. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that Coach Taylor and Ja Morant both became a part of the Memphis Grizzlies franchise in 2019. And so, yes, the coach and how they want to utilize you does matter. It matters.
Yeah. And also the veteranship of the coach. I mean, Tom Thibodeau's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
And sometimes the younger, newer, more exciting, exuberant coaches, they're more open to this style of basketball
I agree.
where there's not as much defense being played, and players are able to really showcase on the offensive side of the basketball.
I
RJ
agree.
Barrett hasn't really had that opportunity under Coach Tibbs.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. So again, when the opportunity presents itself, because right now Coach Tibbs don't have a choice. Now, will
Mhm.
Coach Tibbs lean more toward Jalen Brunson? RJ Barrett, you're gonna have to fight for it. But the time is now for him, I believe, because I believe he can do it. I believe he can do it. Yeah, number 3 in the draft class. Yes, yes, yeah.
So really the question remains, is RJ Barrett on the same level as his peers? What do you think?
Yes, with an asterisk. I say yes because the circumstances that he came into were not set up for him to be the guy, and that is not his fault. However, the asterisk is there because now it is. And what is he going to do about it? Because I believe he has the skill level to make it happen. So I say yes with an asterisk. What about you?
Mm. Unfortunately, I have to say no, not yet.
Okay.
Only because his peers, the ones that have really made a name for themselves, they all have accolades. Can't overlook that. You look at their trophy case, it's a little deeper than RJ Barrett's at this time.
But
So I'm
is
going to have
that,
to say no.
I don't know if that's his fault. The Knicks have a lot to do with that. It is the facts. I get it. But I wonder if that really is his fault. Fair enough. Yeah. I guess my guess with the asterisk is like a no.
It really is. It really is.
But yeah,
You got,
but
yeah.
that's not to say that he can't. And my hope is that he will in 2023. That is my hope.
Oh, absolutely. I hope he gets on that level for me. I really do. I like RJ Barrett. I
Mhm.
mean, that lefty coming from Canada. I mean, it's tough, playing Duke basketball. You got that on, he has that on his shoulders as well. Being drafted with Zion, being good friends with Zion,
Mhm.
going into the same draft class. There's a lot of
Mhm.
pressure
Mhm.
to be, on the same level. I mean, his career will be parallel to Zion for the rest of it,
Yeah. But he owns that, right? So how will he be able to make a name for himself and move away from what that comparison looks like? Zion is Zion. That's it. RJ Barrett is RJ Barrett. And
Yeah.
can he be solid in who he is, and can he continue to improve? Right. So if you're comparing his 2021 to his 2022 output, it was a slight decline in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
RJ Barrett, I'm gonna need for you to get back up there. Yeah. Because now you got Jalen Brunson that can come in and see. Ja
See,
Morant don't have to deal with that. Zion Williamson don't have to deal with that. Darius
true,
Garland may with Donovan
true,
Mitchell, right?
true.
Keldon Johnson may, if they do some type of draft in mid-season, you know.
That's true.
So sometimes it's outside of the player's control. When they are new to the league, yes.